Commander Elena Reeves gripped the command rail as the UN Defiant dropped out of FTL, her breath catching at the sight before them. A massive ring-shaped structure floated against the backdrop of Proxima Centauri, its gleaming surface etched with intricate symbols that seemed to shift when viewed directly. "Magnify Sector 3, she ordered, leaning forward as the holographic display zoomed in on a section pulsing with faint blue energy. The Galactic Council representatives aboard immediately began arguing in hushed tones. High Counselor Vrex, his scaled skin reflecting the command deck's lights, classified it as a Class X precursor artifact, with obvious reverence in his voice. "This discovery must be reported to the Council immediately," Vrex insisted, his translator struggling to convey the excitement in his native clicking language. "We have found only 17 Class X artifacts in the past millennium." Elena nodded respectfully but kept her focus on the sensor readings. Something about the artifact's energy signature seemed oddly familiar, though she couldn't place why. As the ship's systems ran standard approach diagnostics, she noticed a subtle change in the blue pulsing light. "Lieutenant Park, run diagnostic sequence Alpha 7 again," she ordered. The young officer complied, fingers dancing across the interface. "Running now, Commander." When the sequence completed, the artifact's response was unmistakable. A section of the ring brightened, its pattern matching the diagnostic signal perfectly. "It's responding to us," Chief Engineer Maya Rodriguez whispered, eyes wide as she analyzed the incoming data. The energy signature shifted to mirror our diagnostic pattern exactly. High Counselor Vrex pushed forward, mandibles clicking rapidly. "Impossible. Precursor artifacts have never responded to basic signals from lesser." He caught himself. "From newer Council species." Elena exchanged glances with her XO, Commander Thomas Reyes. After 15 years of humanity being treated as technological infants by the Galactic Council, this was the first sign that perhaps there was more to human technology than the other species acknowledge. "Run the sequence again," Elena ordered, "and prepare a shuttle for closer inspection." The Council representatives erupted in protest. "Protocol demands that we establish a research station first," insisted Vrex. "Only certified xenorchaeologists with Council clearance may approach a Class X artifact." Elena maintained her composure. "With all due respect, Counselor, this artifact is in UN territory. While we welcome Council expertise, the Defiant will lead this investigation." As the argument continued, Lieutenant Park's voice cut through the tension. "Commander, you need to see this." The main display showed the artifact's response to their second diagnostic sequence. This time, entire sections were illuminating in sequence, creating patterns that resembled navigational markers. "It's creating a path," Rodriguez said, her analysis program mapping the sequence. "Those energy signatures, they're forming a docking guide." The Council representatives fell silent as the implications set in. The artifact wasn't just responding to the human ship, it was inviting them to connect. "Counselor Vrex," Elena said quietly, "in your experience, has a precursor artifact ever created docking instructions for any Council vessel?" The alien's 4 eyes blinked in rapid succession. "Never in recorded history." Elena straightened her uniform jacket and made her decision. "Then it appears humanity has something unique to offer this investigation after all. Lieutenant Park, maintain our position. Commander Reyes, assemble a research team." She turned to face the still stunned Council representatives. "And please inform the Council that we'll be needing that research station immediately." As the orders were carried out, Elena stared at the ancient structure. For the first time since humanity had joined the galactic community, she felt they might have found their place among the stars, not as newcomers to be tolerated, but as a missing piece of a puzzle far older than any of them had imagined. The research station Proxima Nexus hung in space like a metallic spider, its extending arms tethered to different sections of the massive artifact. 3 weeks had passed since the discovery, and the station teemed with the galaxy's foremost experts on precursor technology. Commander Elena Reeves stood at the observation window, watching shuttles ferry researchers to and from the artifact. Despite the Defiant's crucial role in the discovery, human personnel had been relegated to support duties and basic security. Research Director Zin of the Valkrax glided into the room, his elongated limbs moving with fluid precision. Standing nearly 7 feet tall, the Valkrax scientist regarded Elena with what she had come to recognize as academic condescension. "Commander, your security teams must maintain greater distance from Research Zone 7, he said, his translator rendering his harmonic speech into clipped sentences. "Your presence disrupts sensitive measurements." Elena maintained her diplomatic composure. "My teams are following the agreed protocols, Director. Perhaps your instruments are detecting the artifact's response to human technology, as Lieutenant Park's data suggested." Zin's neck membranes fluttered in what humans had learned was Valkrak's amusement. A charming theory. However, your instruments are simply too primitive to interpret the readings correctly. What you perceive as response is merely background energy fluctuation. Before Elena could respond, Lieutenant Park entered with a data tablet. "Commander, we've compiled the correlation patterns as requested." Zin extended a slender hand. "I will review this data." "Actually," Elena interjected, "this is for the commander of the UEN Defiant, as per our agreement with the Council." The Valkrax scientist withdrew his hand, his posture stiffening. "Very well. Continue your analysis. The Council research team will focus on substantive investigation." After Zin departed, Park activated the holographic display. "We've documented over 300 instances of synchronized energy patterns between our systems and the artifact. It's unmistakable, Commander." Elena studied the data. "And the Council species show no similar patterns." "None. It's exclusively responding to human technology signatures." The ship's intercom interrupted their discussion. "Commander, this is Lieutenant Rodriguez on the Defiant. Proxima Centauri is showing increased solar activity. We're registering Class 2 flare buildups." "Acknowledged. Maintain monitoring and alert station control." That evening, Elena was reviewing reports in her quarters when alarms blared throughout the station. The lighting shifted to emergency protocols as her comm unit activated. "Commander." Rodriguez's voice was tense. "Massive solar flare, much larger than predicted. The Defiant's automated defense systems have activated." Elena rushed to the window in time to see the Defiant's protective fields engage, its energy signature shifting to a defensive configuration. Almost simultaneously, the artifact responded. The massive ring structure began rotating, sections previously thought solid separating along invisible seams. A pulsing blue light emanated from within as an opening formed, perfectly aligned with the Defiant's position. Her comm unit erupted with voices as every species on the station registered the unprecedented event. Security Chief Rahim Khatri's calm voice cut through the chaos. "Commander, I think it just invited us in." Elena grabbed her uniform jacket and headed for the door. "Prepare a boarding team. Full research kit and security detail." She was halfway to the docking bay when Zin intercepted her, his usually composed demeanor replaced with barely contained excitement. "You cannot proceed without Council authorization," he insisted, but his eyes never left the artifact's newly revealed entrance. Elena stepped around him. "That artifact just responded directly to my ship. We're going in, with or without Council approval." Zin hesitated only momentarily before falling into step beside her. "I will accompany your team as scientific observer." As they boarded the shuttle, Elena noticed Zin's hands trembling slightly as he secured his equipment. For the first time, the Valkrax scientist looked at her not with condescension, but with a grudging respect. "What do you think we'll find in there, Director?" she asked. Zin's voice had lost its dismissive tone. "Commander Reeves, I believe we are about to rewrite galactic history." Lieutenant Commander Rajiv Singh led the expedition team through the artifact's entrance, the atmospheric shield behind them shimmering like liquid silver. The passage beyond opened into a corridor with curved walls that emitted a soft amber glow. "Atmosphere reads as breathable," reported Dr. Collins, checking her instruments. Temperature stable at 22 degrees Celsius, almost as if it was calibrated for us. The joint team moved cautiously forward. 6 human crew members from the Defiant, 4 Council security officers, and Zin with 2 Valkrax researchers. The Council security team kept their weapons ready, moving with obvious tension. These symbols, Zin murmured, recording the intricate patterns that covered every surface. They share elements with precursor writing found on Numeria Prime, but these configurations are entirely new. Singh noticed something odd as they proceeded deeper. The pathway illuminates as we approach. He gestured toward the humans in the group, but only around us. He was right. The walls brightened in advance of the human team members, but remained dormant around the alien researchers. Zin's neck membranes fluttered with excitement as he documented the phenomenon. After 20 minutes of careful progress, they entered a vast circular chamber with a domed ceiling, displaying what appeared to be a star map. In the center stood a raised platform with a console-like structure. Remarkable preservation, Zin commented. Most precursor sites show significant decay, yet this appears functional after millions of years. Singh approached the central platform cautiously. As he drew near, holographic displays activated around the perimeter of the room. The team froze, watching as 3-dimensional images formed. Star systems, planets, and most surprisingly, beings. They look almost. Dr. Collins didn't finish her sentence, but everyone understood her meaning. The beings displayed in the holograms weren't human, but their basic structure was unmistakably similar, bipedal, with proportions that echoed human physiology. Zin pushed forward, his analytical tools scanning frantically. "Impossible," he whispered. "This technology has rejected every species for millennia." When Singh stepped onto the platform, the central console transformed beneath his touch. Symbols rearranged themselves, flowing like liquid across the surface until they formed patterns that, while still alien, somehow felt interpretable. "I can almost read this," Singh said, his fingers hovering over symbols that seemed to pulse in response to his proximity. Zin joined him on the platform, but the console remained responsive only to Singh. The Valkrax scientist's professional demeanor cracked slightly, revealing genuine wonder. "In 30 years of studying precursor technology, I have never seen such direct interaction," he admitted. Suddenly, the floor vibrated beneath them. The holographic displays flickered, then shifted to show new images, spacecraft approaching the Proxima Centauri system. Tactical Officer Lai Wei's voice came through their comms with unmistakable tension. Multiple hyperspace windows opening at system edge. Configuration matches Kithrak war fleet. The holographic displays enhanced to show the approaching vessels. Dozens of blade-shaped warships moving with predatory precision. Singh noticed the artifact systems responding to the new threat, battle projections appearing alongside unfamiliar interface controls. "We need to return to the station immediately," Zin said, his earlier scientific curiosity now overshadowed by concern. Singh hesitated, his hand still hovering over the console, which now pulsed with increasing urgency, as though waiting for a command. Something inside him felt a connection to this technology that defied logical explanation. "Commander," he said into his comm unit, "I believe this artifact isn't just a relic. It's a weapons platform, and somehow, it wants us to activate it." The research station erupted into chaos as evacuation protocols initiated. Scientists rushed to secure data while administrative personnel coordinated departure schedules. Emergency klaxons echoed through corridors now crowded with personnel heading to docking bays. Elena strode purposefully into the command center where Station Director Corvus was organizing the evacuation. The avian administrator's feathers were flattened against his body, a sign of extreme stress in his species. "Most research teams will be clear within 2 hours," he reported without looking up from the holographic display. "Council diplomatic vessels have already departed." "And the artifact?" Elena asked. Corvus's head tilted in the Thalarian equivalent of resignation. "Standard protocol for imminent hostilities. We document what we can and withdraw. We cannot abandon this artifact to the Kithrak, Alina said, her voice cutting through the ambient noise. You've seen the data. This technology responds specifically to humans. If the Kithrak claim it. The nearest Council defense fleet is 3 days out, Corvus interrupted. These aren't pirates, Commander. This is a full Kithrak conquest force. His multifaceted eyes fixed on her. Your single battleship cannot stop them. Alina studied the tactical display showing the approaching armada, 17 capital ships and dozens of support vessels. The Defiant, impressive by human standards, would be vastly outmatched. The Defiant will hold position, she decided. We'll buy time for the evacuation. To her surprise, Zin stepped forward from where he had been monitoring communications. I request permission to remain with a skeleton research team. This discovery changes everything we know about precursor technology. Corvus began to object, but Alina cut him off. Granted, Director Zin. We'll coordinate security with your team. As the command center emptied, Alina contacted the Defiant. Commander Reyes, prepare for defensive positioning between the artifact and the approaching fleet. All non-essential personnel transfer to evacuation vessels. Understood, Commander, came the steady reply. What about Lieutenant Commander Singh's report? If the artifact truly is a weapons platform? We don't know enough yet, Alina said, though the possibility had been circling in her mind since Singh's transmission. Has he made any progress interpreting the controls? Negative. He reports intuitive understanding of some elements, but nothing concrete enough to risk activation. The first Kithrak transmission came through, their translator rendering the clicking language into a cold ultimatum. Surrender the precursor technology or be eliminated. You have 1 standard hour to withdraw all personnel and vessels. Alina exchanged glances with Zin, who had been listening intently. The Valkrak scientist looked troubled. The Kithrak do not negotiate, he said quietly. They will take what they want and destroy the rest. Lieutenant Rodriguez approached Alina with a datapad. Commander, our engineering team has been analyzing our sensor readings since the artifact first responded to the Defiant. She displayed a series of energy signature comparisons. The artifact systems respond to our technology in ways we're only beginning to understand. If we directly interface the Defiant's core systems with the artifact's connection points. Alina nodded, already grasping the implications. It was desperate, possibly suicidal, but potentially their only option. Prepare for docking maneuvers, she ordered. All hands to battle stations. Rodriguez hesitated. Commander, there's no precedent for this kind of integration. The power differential alone could overload our systems. What's your assessment, Director Zin? Alina asked the Valkrak scientist. Zin's gaze moved from the tactical display showing the approaching Kithrak fleet to the artifact floating serenely beyond the station. In 3 centuries of precursor research, we have never witnessed technology so responsive to a specific species, he said carefully. If there is any vessel that could successfully interface with that artifact, Commander Reeves, it is yours. The Defiant's engines flared as it broke from station orbit, moving with purpose toward the connection points now visible on the artifact's surface. Alina watched from the command center, knowing she was committing her ship and crew to an unprecedented gamble. Gods of Earth and stars beyond. She whispered to herself, I hope we're right. The Defiant shuddered as docking clamps engaged with the artifact's structure. Through the bridge viewports, Alina watched as illuminated pathways spread across the ancient ring's surface, converging toward the connection points where her ship now attached. Connection secure, reported Lieutenant Rodriguez from engineering. Power systems showing unusual fluctuations, but within tolerances. Maintain monitoring. Alina ordered, her gaze fixed on the approaching Kithrak fleet, now visible as more than pinpoints of light. Time to intercept. 15 minutes, Commander, replied Lieutenant Wyatt, tactical. Leading vessels accelerating. They detected our maneuver. Energy cascaded through the Defiant systems without warning, rerouting power in patterns that defied the crew's understanding. The bridge lighting flickered momentarily before stabilizing with a subtle but distinctive change in hue. "Commander," Rodriguez's voice was a mixture of alarm and awe. "Something's happening to our systems." The control interfaces throughout the bridge transformed before their eyes, holographic displays expanding to show weapons systems and defensive capabilities beyond anything in human technical knowledge. Symbols similar to those inside the artifact appeared alongside standard UEN designations. Elena felt a strange resonance building within her mind, as if something dormant was awakening in response to the ship's transformation. When she reached for the newly formed tactical controls, her hands moved with uncanny certainty. "Hull composition changing at the molecular level," reported Lieutenant Commander Chen, staring in disbelief at his engineering station. "The artifact's material is being incorporated into our structure." From the research station, Zin's scientific team transmitted their frantic analysis. The artifact is not a standalone structure. It's a technological enhancement module designed for compatible vessels. It's upgrading your ship. The artifact's outer ring accelerated its rotation, generating a field that enveloped the Defiant completely. Through the shifting energy barrier, Elena could see the first Kithrak vessels entering weapons range, their forward batteries charging. "Incoming fire," Wei announced. Elena found herself accessing defensive protocols she couldn't possibly know yet understood completely. The first Kithrak salvos hit the transformation field and dissipated harmlessly, their energy absorbed and repurposed. "Defensive systems operational," she stated with calm certainty. "Prepare countermeasures." Her crew exchanged bewildered glances at her changed demeanor, but their hands moved to the transformed controls with growing confidence. As Elena explored the new systems now integrated with the Defiance controls, understanding flowed into her mind with unnatural ease. Memory structures buried deep in human DNA activated, connecting her consciousness with the ship's new capabilities. "Commander," Chen said hesitantly, "how do you know how to operate these systems?" Elena's fingers danced across controls she'd never seen before, yet knew intimately. "I don't know. I just remember." The truth revealed itself through data streams and ancestral memory fragments now accessible through the ship's enhanced systems. Humanity carried the genetic legacy of the precursors, engineered to eventually reclaim their inheritance. The Defiant wasn't being controlled by the artifact. It was being restored to what human technology was always meant to become. "The Kithrak fleet is moving to surround us," Wei reported. "Main battle group in optimal firing position." Elena felt the transformed ship respond to her thoughts almost before she consciously formed them. Tactical systems predicted her strategies and enhanced them, offering options she instinctively understood. "Open a channel to all vessels," she ordered. The communications officer nodded, hands moving across unfamiliar controls with increasing confidence. Elena straightened in the command chair, now subtly reshaped to accommodate human physiology with perfect ergonomic support. When she spoke, her voice carried the weight of awakened knowledge millions of years in waiting. "This is Commander Elena Reeves of the UEN, defiant to approaching Kithrak forces. You are facing technology you cannot comprehend. Withdraw now, or witness its full capability." On the tactical display, the Kithrak fleet continued its advance, weapons systems fully charged. Elena's lips curved into a smile that belonged to ancestors whose existence humanity had never suspected. "So be it," she whispered, and gave the command to engage. The transformed Defiant no longer resembled a human battleship. Its hull shimmered with energy lattices as previously hidden precursor technology merged with human engineering. The original angular design had evolved into something more organic, with flowing lines that seemed to bend light around them. "Kithrak vessels firing main batteries," announced Lieutenant Wei, his voice steady despite the unprecedented situation. Elena didn't need the warning. She could feel the incoming attack through the ship's enhanced sensor systems, experiencing the trajectory and energy signatures as intuitive knowledge. When she engaged the defensive measures, the ship responded to her thoughts almost before she consciously formed them. The crew watched in amazement as spatial distortions appeared before the incoming projectiles, redirecting their paths harmlessly away from the Defiant. Not merely deflected, the enemy fire was controlled, guided away from the research station as well. Status of transformation, Elena asked, though she could sense the answer through her newfound connection. 93% complete, Rodriguez reported. Commander, the power readings are off any scale we've ever measured. We're generating more energy than a small star. The Kithrak concentrated their firepower, dozens of vessels targeting the transformed ship simultaneously. Elena activated secondary defensive measures that bent spacetime around the incoming barrage. The bridge crew worked with newfound efficiency, accessing knowledge they had never learned yet somehow possessed. They're attempting to target the artifact itself. Why warned? Elena's response was immediate and precise. The Defiant's counterattack deployed weapons that generated targeted gravity wells, disabling the enemy ship's propulsion systems without destroying them. 3 Kithrak destroyers drifted helplessly, their engines dark. How are you doing this? Commander Reyes asked quietly beside her. Elena's attention remained on the tactical display as she answered. The knowledge was always there, encoded in our DNA. The precursors designed us to carry their legacy. A universal translation matrix activated within the ship's communication system, allowing Elena to broadcast directly to all vessels in the system. This technology was not meant for conquest. We are its guardians, not its owners. The Kithrak commander's response came through, his translated voice retaining the aggressive clicking undertones of his species. Human deception. You have stolen precursor technology and corrupted it. Surrender immediately or be destroyed. Let me show you the truth, Elena replied. Through the enhanced communication system, she transmitted data directly from the ship's archives, information revealed by the artifact during the transformation. The record showed ancient beings seeding planets across the galaxy with genetically modified versions of themselves, creating species that would eventually evolve into humans. We are descendants of the precursors, she explained, genetically engineered to carry their legacy through time until we reached sufficient technological maturity. This artifact recognized our genetic signature. That's why it responded only to human technology. From the research station, Zin's voice came through, filled with scientific wonder. Commander Reeves, our analysis confirms your transmission. The genetic markers are unmistakable. The Kithrak commander maintained silence as his fleet regrouped. Finally, his transmission returned. If what you claim is true, what is the purpose of this weapon system? Why create inheritors for instruments of destruction? Elena accessed deeper levels of the newly available knowledge, not destruction, protection. She projected star charts showing regions far beyond known space. The artifact network was designed as a defensive system against a threat the precursors had only barely contained. Throughout human space, other dormant artifacts began activating in sequence, responding to the signal from the first awakened structure. Colonial outposts reported ancient technology emerging from gas giants, asteroid fields, and planetary crusts, each responding specifically to human presence. As Elena viewed the incoming reports, she realized the transformation had just begun. Humanity's true inheritance was not just a single battleship, but an interconnected defensive network spanning the entire galaxy, created by their ancestors to protect all sentient life from a threat that would soon return. The Galactic Council's emergency session convened in their orbital headquarters above Centralis Prime. Species representatives filled the circular chamber, their arguments echoing against the transparent dome showing the galaxy beyond. News of the transformation had spread faster than light through quantum communications networks, triggering panic, wonder, and calculation in equal measure. Elena stood on the speaker's platform, the transformed Defiant holding position outside as both demonstration and warning. The ship now appeared as a seamless fusion of human engineering and precursor technology, its hull shifting with patterns of light that defied conventional physics. Humanity did not choose this role, she explained, as holographic evidence displayed behind her. The precursors engineered us as caretakers for technologies they knew would be needed when an ancient enemy returned. The Kithrak delegation, forced to participate diplomatically after their military defeat, demanded immediate action. The human abomination must be contained before more artifacts activate, their representative hissed through his translator. They will use this power to dominate the galaxy. Several militaristic council factions murmured in agreement, their fears obvious. Elder Counselor Mox of the hegemony stood, his crystalline body refracting light as he spoke. Commander Reeves, your species has possessed this technology for mere days, yet you expect us to believe you have no intention of using it to advance human interests. History suggests otherwise. Alina remained composed under the scrutiny of 100 alien species. The technology we've inherited contains safeguards. It responds only to defensive intentions. We couldn't use it for conquest, even if we wanted to. Grand Scholar Zin, newly promoted after his groundbreaking research on the artifact, moved to the evidence platform. The Valkrak scientist presented data showing the defensive rather than offensive nature of the precursor technology. My extensive analysis confirms Commander Reeves' assertions, he stated. The activation sequences require specific genetic and psychological profiles. Aggression triggers shutdown protocols. The debate intensified as species aligned into factions. Those seeing opportunity and cooperation faced off against those demanding containment or even preemptive strikes against human worlds before more artifacts could activate. Alina's comm unit vibrated with an urgent priority signal from the Defiant. She discreetly checked the message and felt her breath catch. Deep scans of the newly accessible precursor database had revealed critical information. The ancient enemy that had driven the precursors to such desperate measures was not extinct but dormant, and long-range sensors detected disturbances at the galaxy's edge matching predicted awakening patterns. She looked up at the arguing council, suddenly seeing their petty politics in a new light. Time was running out for all of them. Honored representatives, she interrupted, her voice cutting through the debate. While we argue, something approaches that threatens every species in this chamber. The council fell silent as Alina projected the sensor data from the Defiant, showing unmistakable signs of an approaching force that dwarfed any known fleet. The gravitational distortions alone indicated masses greater than small moons, moving with purpose toward the galaxy's spiral arm. This is what the precursors feared, she said into the silence. This is why they created us, why they left their technology dormant until we could awaken it. We can fight amongst ourselves, or we can prepare for what comes next. Even the Kithrak delegation had fallen silent, their tactical minds already calculating the implications of the sensor readings. Grand Scholar Zin stepped forward. I propose an immediate joint scientific military task force. If Commander Reeves will grant access to the precursor database, we may better understand what we face. Alina nodded. The database is already being translated and will be shared with all council species. She turned to face the still stunned representatives. The precursors didn't choose humans because we're superior, but because we're part of a greater whole. None of us survives what's coming unless we stand together. Across the chamber, one by one, representatives began to signal agreement. The Integrated Council Human Defense Initiative transformed the political landscape of the galaxy within months. What began as fear and suspicion had evolved into the most comprehensive cooperative effort in known history. The Defiant, now classified as a Guardian-class vessel, led the newly formed Sentinel fleet to the coordinates provided by the precursor database. Alina stood on the command deck, watching as ships from 17 previously competing species moved in perfect formation around them. The fleet represented a fusion of technologies, each species contributing their unique advancements to create a defense force unlike any before. Final approach to designated coordinates, announced Lieutenant Wei. All vessels report ready status. Xin had joined her crew as scientific liaison, his expertise proving invaluable as more precursor systems activated throughout human space. He stood beside her now, monitoring data streams from the artifact network. The final pieces of the ancient design become clear, he said with characteristic precision. Humans were not chosen for superiority, but for complementary abilities. Your adaptability, creativity, and even aggression filled gaps in the complex tapestry of galactic species. Alina nodded. No single evolutionary path could prepare for what we face. We needed to be different, together. At the edge of charted space, the Sentinel fleet established the first monitoring outpost. Massive sensor arrays extended into the intergalactic void, where the first tendrils of what the precursor records called the Void Collective had been detected. The transformed Defiant docked with the central hub, activating the primary defense grid, connecting the now-awakened artifacts into a galaxy-spanning network. Grid activation complete, Rodriguez reported from her engineering station. All nodes responding. On the main display, Alina watched as dormant precursor technology throughout the galaxy came online. Planetary shields, weapons platforms, and subspace disruption fields designed to slow the enemy's advance. Each system had remained hidden, waiting for the genetic key humans carried in their DNA. "Commander," Wei called out, his voice tight. Multiple contacts emerging from intergalactic space. Configuration matches precursor warning profiles. The probe ships of the ancient enemy appeared on their sensors, biomechanical constructs of impossible complexity, testing the newly established defenses like pathogens seeking vulnerabilities in an immune system. "They're scanning our defenses," Xin observed. "This is merely reconnaissance." Alina accessed the command protocols through her enhanced connection to the ship. The knowledge that flowed through her mind had become easier to interpret since that first transformation. She understood now what her ancestors had intended, not for humans to stand alone but to serve as a catalyst, awakening the defensive network that would protect all sentient life. "Transmit activation signal to all Guardian vessels," she ordered. Across human and council space, ships that had undergone similar transformations responded. Planetary defense systems emerged from millennia of dormancy, rising from ocean depths and desert sands where they had waited in perfect stillness. The first probe ships of the Void Collective launched an experimental attack against the perimeter defenses. The response was immediate and overwhelming, not just from human-operated systems, but from a unified defensive grid that incorporated technologies from every council species. "They're retreating," Wei announced, surprise evident in his voice. "For now," Alina replied. "They'll return in greater numbers once they analyze our capabilities." She turned to address the bridge crew and the fleet commanders watching through communication links. Officers of a dozen species looked to her not because humans commanded, but because they had united the disparate pieces of the galaxy's defense. "We have found our purpose not in conquest, but in protection," she said, her words transmitted to every vessel in the fleet. "We are the inheritors of a legacy it will preserve all sentient life against the encroaching darkness." The Defiant, once just a human battleship, now carried the hopes of countless worlds as it led the united fleet in preparations for the true battle to come, a fight not for dominance, but for existence itself.